about you because then I have all these feelings behind attached to that. Right. And it was really difficult to find a place in which it was all right to feel disinclined to monogamy. Um, and there was a lot of work. There were long years of introspection, of
self-hate.
It started with self-hate. Always does. Always. When you grow up in a rigid society, it always starts with self-hate. But then introspection and research and learning and just growth to be in as comfortable of a place with all of myself as I am now. And it was at that point in which I was already approaching commonality with myself that I ran into this one.
Hey.
Okay. Segue.
Okay, so he said all of this erudite stuff, and I'm just going to break it down because I'm really lazy. I can repeat everything that he said, but in case you're like, question, I don't know what you're saying, here comes Mosh.
You did use erudite.
Scholarly, smart sounding, sassy.
Okay.
Sassy's not a synonym. Okay, so the story goes that I was born in Odessa, Ukraine, under the blanket of the USSR when I was still going on. And I came to the United States when I was 4 years old. So I've lived here for more than 17 years. However, as Americanized as I've become, which is hardly even true because me and America have conflict, but that whole issue was that I would come home and inside my house was a slice of the motherland. And to explain Eastern European gender conformity and gender roles and the heterosexism that goes into it, it's almost impossible, but I'll try. Basically, you are expected to get married very young. A lot of your energy needs to go into finding, as a woman, or as a female-bodied person, someone to marry and have kids with. Oftentimes during Thanksgiving or other holidays, the question is, why isn't your uterus filled with tadpoles yet? I'm confused by this. Where are the bead-eyed fetuses, little swimmies? Where are they? Because you should be procreating by now. Keep saying but beyond that, it's also you need to be subservient. You need to feel very comfortable in being a woman if you do possess primary and secondary sex characteristics that have to do with having the genotype female. It was very hard. Growing up, I had lots of boy crushes, and I now in retrospect can recognize that I had girl crushes, and I definitely messed around with girls. But it was all childhood sexuality. It's all really innocent, and most people mess around with people of the same gender, same sex, and it's innocent. It doesn't evoke any reaction in their identity development at all. That's not what happened with me. So you were 17, and I was 16, involved for about a year and a half in a relationship with a really great heterosexual guy. I was really, really happy. I was in love for the first time, and almost out of nowhere, blindsided, I was like, holy shit, I think I'm bisexual. Yeah, sorry. And that had an impact on my relationship, but then also it had an impact on me because the words came out of my mouth before I could actualize the feelings for myself. Like, what does that mean? And then I started identifying as bisexual. I realized not long down the road that was really limiting again, because I was also attracted to people who didn't identify as male or female, and I also was attracted to people who were transgender or people who were gender fluid, gender queer, agendered, bigendered. Different in their gender. And so I was like, okay, well then pansexual would be a good place to go with that. The split for me was that it was limiting because I realized I prefer women. And then that blew my mind. So was I a lesbian-leaning bisexual or lesbian-leaning pansexual? Was I lesbian? But that's not true because I had this wonderful relationship with a man. I was still in a relationship with a man, actually. Thank you. And, it was a very confusing time for me to be like, what am I? Now I'm at a point where all of those labels are true and not true at the same time. And then I discovered that once I became comfortable with not labeling myself for my sexual orientation, my gender identity started to develop. And I wanted to be able to express to other people this idea that, yeah, I present as female. I'm not the girliest girl ever, but I don't really look masculine. If I tried, I'm really jealous of people who can really, fuck, I'll just say, butch up. But it's never going to happen for me, unfortunately. So, and I'm pretty comfortable with this body and this presentation, but internally, I'm not always female. Internally, I can be male presenting in my head. I can enter a masculine headspace. Most of the time, I'm agendered. I'm without a gender, or bigendered, pangendered, etc. And so I wanted a word to express that to people, and there was nothing. Like, the trans thing came up for me. I remember we were at school and someone was like, oh, we were having this trans group come. They're like, are there even trans people at the school? And I was like, and then once I said it, I was like, oh, oh,
this is the second time I've done that.
This is the second time I've done that. Hey. Yeah, so, and I started to explore that, and I realized, again, that whole feeling of transgression, that I can't say I'm transgender because it's taking away from a group of people that I respect so deeply and advocate for actively. And so I was like, okay, so genderqueer, gender fluid kind of was where I ended up. So I was a non-heterosexual, gender fluid creature. And I was like, that's complicated enough. And of course, then the relationship orientation stuff came up. And it came down to, oh, well, it's not that I have to be with multiple people, but I can definitely be in love with one person, be committed physically, mentally to one person, but I don't have the ability to lock myself out emotionally from other people. I'm not welcoming the experience. I'm not doing something underhanded like going online dating while I'm in a relationship with someone looking for someone else to enter, looking for someone else to enter my heart or my pants.
Or just looking for someone else to enter.
Right. It was never about that. It was, well, if I felt this intense connection with one person, I can't guarantee that it won't happen with someone else. And it was incredibly difficult. And in that development, people did get hurt because they felt insecure. They're like, well, how do I know you're not going to leave me for someone? And I never would have. I never would have. It's just a matter of coming to a place where I could love myself enough to say, okay, here are the cards. I am polyamorous. And once I found that word, it was like, whoa, yeah. And now I'm finally at a point where it would probably take 6, 7 labels to describe what I am. Do you want to count them off? Okay.
You go first and I'll try first.
Okay. So we have lesbian because I prefer women and I am pretty much hardcore feminist in a lot of ways, old school radical feminist. And I am gender fluid / genderqueer is my gender identity. Poly or polyamorous because of my relationship orientation. Panromantic is my affectional orientation because I can fall in love and have likey, warm, fuzzy feelings for people of any gender identity or expression. What am I missing? Oh, demi-heterosexual. Meaning, if you are male-bodied, it takes me an emotional connection to feel sexually attracted to you. I'm not right off the bat. And I'm sex positive because I think sex is good. Responsible safe sex is good. Do you want to count off yours?
The only one.
I got you.
Okay. So, as far as sexual orientation, right. We have queer. Gender identity, fuzzy place between gender fluid and queer. Give me one.
You're poly.
Polyamorous.
Polyamorous.
She said panromantic. I would say polyaffectionate.
Whatever works for you.
The same thing, but
whatever works for
hey. What did you say?
Sex positive.
Sex positive is definitely good, healthy, safe,
right.
Informed, consensual sex.
Consensual sex.
And what's this?
Well, for me, because I'm also lesbian identifying because I have a preference.
Yeah, no, I have no preference.
Yeah. Preference.
Human. That's the next one.
Human.
I think that at the center of all this, we talked about conformity. We talked
Right.
about queer being an umbrella term for different, for being other than normal.
But I have to say that I, in recent times, have grown less comfortable with identifying as queer, as much as I respect his right to identify as that, because I don't think it's a term that is well reclaimed. And that's something that is part of my personal journey and my personal identity, because especially in the Midwest and the West, saying queer is still really derogatory, and I don't want to empower anyone to call me queer. And so that's something that I've decided, but I totally and completely, absolutely respect his identity.
A lot of times, queer is something that I hand people for almost exactly that reason.
Right.
Because they say, well, what are you, gay? I'm like, no, I'm queer. And
Right.
you lay, whether the person is heterosexual or not, you lay that in their lap and it makes them question, it makes them wonder. And that's what I like to do. Because there is heteronormativity and cisnormativity. There's also LGBT normativity, queer normativity, trans normativity.
Which tells you that if you are gay or transgender, there's a certain way to do it. And that's kind of what we were touching on in feeling that if we were to identify as trans, we would have to look a certain way, act a certain way. There's expectations that people would have. Similarly, if I were to identify as a lesbian, how would people conceptualize me being with men or male-bodied people or male-identified people? It would be like, oh, you're this magical exception to that, but that's not necessarily true. Especially looking at the history of my relationships and the history of my affections.
Oh, you are a male-bodied person who likes guys, so you act this way. You listen to this kind of music. You dress in a certain way.
Where's your man purse?
Excuse me, so European shoulder bag, which she has, not me. But there are all of these assumptions as to how to fit in. And the reason that we made this video, the people for whom we really made this video, was for people who try as they might, or might have.
And might continue to.
And might continue to, that's okay. Who don't fit in, who, for all their attempts, are other than normal. It's okay. And though the struggle may continue, though life may not get exponentially easier, though
or magically
easier, though the world and society may not, spread out some pink and purple carpet for you, you get better. In the end,
you get so much stronger, so much wiser, and you need to come to a point of self-love, because no one else is going to give that to you. We searched in the community, and we found pockets of it. Definitely. Nothing against those people who find the LGBT community to be so welcoming, so accepting, so affirming, so validating, so loving. Nothing against those people. But we are living proof that people exist who enter that community and still feel stratified. Mm-hmm. They still feel marginalized. And that's just a reality. And I want to say, hey, it gets better. It won't. It doesn't get better. You need to find positivity in yourself, and you need to find the strength within yourself. And our gift to you is our faces to say that you're not alone.
You're not alone.
You're unique.
You're distinct.
Definitely. Special. Mm-hmm. Special. But you're not alone, ever.
And we love you.
We do. And not in the polyamorous way.
No.
We love you. We love you because we advocate for you. We will continue to advocate for people that do fit into labels, people that don't fit into labels, people who are straight, not straight, cisgender, transgender, agender, people who are white, black, whatever, anything.
We advocate for people, humanity.
We advocate for equality and equal treatment. So we wanted to say that it might not get better,
but you get stronger.
Exactly.